I'm going to show you how to make the zipper glasses case from Kreative Kiwi. For this I'm going to be using a 5x7 hoop, 2 layers of wash away stabiliser, my squizzers, some pins with heads on, it could be any pins, nothing special, some masking tape. I'm using monofilament for the quilting, black thread so that you can see what I'm doing, and I will be doing all the decorative satin stitching with a metallic silver thread. So for that I will have a 9014 needle in my machine. I've also got 3 elastic bands, a pencil, my fabrics, batting cut to size, as well as a zipper and a plastic beaker so that I can make a thread stand along with the elastic band and the pencil for the metallic thread. You're going to start off by hooping your 2 layers of wash away stabiliser. You can use cutaway for this, you don't have to use wash away, it's personal choice. I wouldn't use tear away though because there is satin stitching in this design. Then we're going to pin around the top edge of our hoop, inside hoop that is. Take your pin, rest it onside the inside hoop, push it through your stabiliser and then bring it back round and back through, and that will anchor it. And you're going to do that on all 4 sides. Load your file into your machine and then you're going to stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you your placement outline for your batting and your zip. We're now going to place our zipper in position. You're going to use these lines here. You're going to line the centre of your zip up with this line here, so the second from the bottom. You're going to place it on the front of your hoop with the right side of your zip facing upwards. I'm going to turn this to the side so that I can see what I'm doing. Keep any workings out of the way, so give yourself a little bit of a tail on your zipper, and then you're going to tape it in place. My zip's a little bit long, but it doesn't matter, it's the only one that I've got for the minute. Okay, so we're now going to stitch round number 2, and that's going to secure the bottom half of our zipper. And then after that we will stitch round number 3, and that will secure the other side of it. And now round number 3. I'm just going to cut some of the tail off of my zipper so that it doesn't get in my way. Place your batting over the front of your bag and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 4, and that's going to secure it and give you your placement outlines for your fabrics. We're now going to trim away the excess batting from around the edge of the stitch line. We're now going to place our first fabric, and that's going to be for this area here. Take your fabric, flip it over, and you want to make sure that this stitch line here is this side of your zipper guideline there. And then you're going to tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 5 to secure it, and that's going to stitch it along here. I've removed the tape, and if you've got quite a lot of fabric this side like I have, just trim it up. Just leave yourself 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so now fold your fabric down and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 6, and that's going to secure it in place. You're now going to trim up your excess underneath this stitch line here. You want to leave what you've got on the around the edge. Just take off the excess along here. Next we're going to add the two other fabrics. The first one is going to go here, so place your fabric face up and tape it in place. I'm going to fold this back where the stitch line is and just create a crease, because I'm going to be adding a fabric where there's a direction. And what I did, let me just move that out of the way for a minute, I placed my fabric down up the right way and how I want it, then I folded my fabric back so that this edge follows the stitch line, like that. So when it goes down on top of my first fabric, I place it down and then I pull this back. Now it's at an angle at the moment, but that's fine because when it's opened out it's going to go flat again. So I'm going to tape that into place, and then we're going to stitch round number 7, and that's going to do a line of stitching here to secure both pieces in the hoop. So flip your fabric back and check that it's how it should be, and that's fine. And then we're going to trim up the excess along here, just leaving about 1/4 of an inch. We're going to pull this back, tape it in place. We're now going to stitch round number 8, and that's going to secure it all down. We're now going to trim up the excess fabric here, and we're going to trim close to the stitch line this time. We still need to leave our edge though. You're now going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 9, and that's going to zigzag along the raw edge here. Next we come to the quilting, and the first area to be quilted is this one here. So load your thread colour into your machine for that. I'm going to be using my transparent monofilament throughout all 3 areas, but you can use whatever you like and change your colours as often as you like. So we're now going to stitch round number 10. The next area to be quilted is this one here. So load your thread colour for that into your machine and then stitch round number 11. Next is the quilting in this area here. So load whichever thread colour you want for that into your machine and then stitch round number 12. So that's all the quilting finished. Next we're going to do all the decorative stitching, which will go along here and along this join here. For this I'm going to be using a metallic thread, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to set this aside for a second. I'm going to be using a beaker, a pencil and 3 elastic bands. When you stitch metallic threads, you don't want it twisting, because as it comes off the reel this way it will twist, and as it twists it can form kinks which can get stuck in the eye of your needle. So what we want to do is have the thread come off the reel this way. The easiest way to do this is to take 3 elastic bands and just chain them together. Turn your beaker upside down, place the middle band over the beaker so that it's got ears. Then you're going to thread your pencil through your spool, sit it on top, just turn this around a little bit, and then place each end of the rubber bands over each end of your pencil. And that will come off the spool. I'll take this tape off for a minute, it's just holding it in place to stop it becoming unravelled. And that will now come off nicely. When you put this is quite a springy thread, so turn your beaker slightly off centre, just so that it's like that, so that when it gets to the end here, it automatically starts pulling down here. If not, you can have the coils jumping off the end of your thread and it'll get wrapped around your pencil and jam and break your needle. So that's how to set that up. Now I would put this on the right hand side of my machine, and I will run the thread up and through the 2 pieces of the bobbin winder and then thread it as normal. There's a few more things we need to do before we start stitching with our metallic thread. The first is to change the needle to a 90-14 so that it's got the larger eye for the thread to travel through easily. Secondly, we're going to reduce the tension, the embroidery tension in our machine settings. Normally mine is on 0 and I'm going to set it to -2. And we also want to slow our machine down to 350 or 600 stitches per minute, no faster than that. That way you won't get any snags and it gives your machine a chance to stitch nice and cleanly. If you're going to change your thread colour, now is the time to do so, and then you're going to stitch round number 14. Next is the monogram, so change your thread colour to whatever you want for that. I'm going to stay with the silver, and then you're going to stitch round number 15. Next we're going to add the lining for the front to the back of the hoop, so turn your hoop over. This is the centre stitch line for your zip. Take your fabric with the right side up and the fold facing down towards your stabiliser, and you want to overlap the bottom stitch line of the zip, like so. And then you'll tape it in place. You're now going to pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 16, and that's going to do the decorative stitching along here to secure the top of your lining. And if you want to change your thread colour, then now is the time to do so as well. To make life a little bit easier for ourselves when we come to turning this and trimming up, etc., Later on you would normally take out this area here once it's all stitched, but we're going to do it a little bit in advance so that it's easier for ourselves. So all I'm going to do is trim out just this bit here where the zip is. So I'm just going to take care not to cut your zip or anything else. Don't go right to the edge for now, just go nearly all the way along. And I'm stopping this here is the stitching that holds the top part of the zip, so you stop there and trim along. We're now going to add our backing fabric, and this is where you can get a little bit confused because you've got linings and you've got backings. So your backing fabric is going to be placed with your fabric face down over the entire outline of your bag on the front of your hoop. So your backing fabric and your front will be right sides together on the front of your hoop. Then you're going to tape that in place, pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 17, and that's going to secure the top here. I've removed all the tape. I'm going to flip my backing fabric up for the minute. This is the most important step of everything. You need to open your zip about 3/4 of the way along so that when your fabric comes down and is sealed inside, when you turn your bag out the right way, you can still get in here to turn it. If you don't open your zip, it's lost. You have to start again. So I'm going to put a little bit of tape just to keep because it's quite a bulky zip, just to keep it from moving about, like that. And then you're going to bring your fabric down over the top and tape it in place. You're now going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 18, and that's going to stitch the rest of your backing fabric down. I forgot to mention, so I'm going to do so now. If you want to add any padding to the back of your bag, when you place your fabric down to stitch here, you can place your batting over the top and then stitch it down at the same time as your backing fabric. So you can skip back to round number 17 and that will secure the top. Then you'll stitch round number 18, which will secure the bottom. So you're basically going over your footsteps again that you did for the backing fabric. So this is round number 17, and now round number 18. Then trim up the excess batting. And that's it, the back of your bag will now be as padded as the front. We're now going to add the lining for the backing fabric. So turn your hoop over, and we're going to be adding this from the back of our hoop. Place your lining fabric face down, so you'll have right sides of your fabric inside together, and tape it in place. pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 19, and that's going to secure it in place. I've removed all the tape and pins from both front and back of my hoop. We're now going to free this from the hoop, and we're going to start trimming it up. We're going to cut all the way around, leaving at least 1/4 inch seam allowance. So nice sharp scissors. And just cut straight through the zip. Next we're going to cut diagonally across our corners, taking care not to cut the stitching, so don't get too close. The same this side. And then round these rounded edges we're going to snip into towards the stitching, so that when we turn it the seam can bend and give us a nice neat finish. Okay, so now we're going to turn this through the opening that was left when you stitched the lining on. And push out the corners so that they sit nicely. Where we trimmed this out earlier, it makes it a lot easier. I'll just remove this piece of tape for turning everything out. So now we're going to stitch up this opening by turning it towards itself. I'm just going to put a couple of clips in there, and then I'm going to hand stitch it, just doing a overhand stitch along the opening. Okay, so I've got my needle and thread. I've just done the first few stitches because I can't see what I'm doing properly, and then you're just going to pinch the edges together and stitch up the gap just by going over and over. And I would advise you to use a matching bobbin and thread when sewing the linings and the back onto your bag, just so that you don't get this, like that's my bobbin thread, the white here, then you won't see that. Okay, so now you can trim away anything remaining here if you need to. I'm not going to bother with this because I'm going to be washing mine anyway, so that will get rid of all the stabiliser that's remaining. So we can now turn this out the right way. And I'm now going to give this a light pressing with a pressing cloth on the back with no steam, just so that it all sets my seams nicely. So I've pressed that, and let's pop some glasses inside. And there it is. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos as soon as they're published. Do pop along to Creative Kiwi's Facebook group, there's lots of ideas, help and inspiration there for everybody. And thank you very much for joining me. You'll find a link to this video along with lots of other information such as where I get my supplies and some discount codes for you in the video description below.